and from time to time we put out reports into local spending or issue-based areas where the government are spending our money, wasting our money, or putting in policies that can damage the public finances and give us higher taxes. Our reports are short, sharp analysis of policy, and we always put out the facts that the taxpayer can judge. I mean, today we're putting out a report into council publicity spending, where we show you where your council is spending your money on its publicity, on its glossy leaflets, on its job adverts. And if you feel your council is spending too much, then write to your councillor, write to your leader of your council and ask them why they're continuing to increase their spending on non-essential areas when, during the recession, we're all having to cut back.
A typical working day for you here at the Taxpayers Alliance?
No. Simply no. We run by the news and what happens. It was a normal day for us until MP's expenses and the whole furore over the second houses and all sorts that were coming out, and then everything's got to change because the agenda is driven by the news. And the reason why we are one of the most successful campaign groups at getting our message out is because we react when the news changes, and we're the first ones on the scene, always giving the taxpayer point of view to emerging stories.
So can you just take us back? Did somebody wake up one morning and think a Taxpayers Alliance is a great idea? How did it come about?
Well, it was our founders, Matthew Elliott, Florence Heath and Andrew Allen, who were sick of politics as usual, and they thought, well, let's set something up. You know, they have the belief that if not now, when, if not you, who, and decided to do something. And that is the ethos of the Taxpayers Alliance, that we are a grassroots campaign. And if people want to change their community, change their politics, the only way to do it is to actually get involved and see that you put an effort towards achieving something in your community.
And do you think you're part of, sorry to start speaking from a political point of view, so to speak, but part of a voting pattern change or behavioural change, in that people much prefer, you know, the rational choice model and looking at single issues, so to speak, and people feel much more comfortable with organisations like yourself?
Yeah, I think we're seeing a complete sea change in people's attitude to politics. The party line duopoly is steadily breaking down. PR in European elections and the emergence of the Lib Dems and also the SNP in Scotland and how well they do. It's bringing new parties and new ideas into the public debates. And I think with the emergence of issue groups and issues as key driving factors and key debates in communities, their approach to politics, people will start to vote depending on issues, and the political parties will have to respond to that. We want the political parties to be following the people and actually move where they are headed.
So going back to the typical day, here it is Thursday, December the 11th. What's happening today?
Well, today we're putting out a report on council publicity spending, which is the glossy leaflets, the job adverts, the non-essential spending really that councils are using in these tough economic times. And we're just putting the facts out there for the people to make up their mind. Should the average council be spending almost £1 million on publicity, especially when families are having to cut back their spending? Half of councils have increased their publicity spending. Now that's not to say that all councils have increased their spending. Some have done well, some have lowered their spending, which they should be congratulated for. But today is a day of putting the message out to the media, of informing our supporters to go and write letters, to contact their councillors, contact the leaders of their councils, and actually get people talking with their politicians and get the politicians knowing that the people aren't impressed with overspending councils. But likewise, if people see that their council has cut back their spending, they should congratulate them and encourage them to cut back their spending and hopefully deliver tax cuts.
So how should councils advertise? What exactly is wrong with the glossy leaflet or the advert in the papers?
Well, I mean, it's a problem of politics that the parties only ever deliver leaflets now when they're running for election. What happened to community newsletters? What happened to the times when your councillor would knock on your door and ask you about an issue and inform you of what's going on? You know, councillors already get generous expenses paid for by the taxpayer enough in fact to make it a full-time job. So if they think it is a full-time job, then they should start re-engaging with the community and getting their opinions and their takes at the grassroots level, and not what officers tell them.
Tim, do you think this is a real opportune time for yourselves? In fact, maybe with the recession, that you may be now pushing an open door?
Well, it's a case of politicians having to adapt to circumstances. You know, they've spent when times were good without saving, and now times are bad, they continue to spend even more. And we're just there saying that you've got to live within your means. Government cannot keep spending so much and using taxpayers as their blank checkbook. It's a case of whether in recession or whether we're in good times, taxes have got to be low, because they're the ones that drive growth, they're the ones that create enterprise and bring investment and jobs in. And as well, with the Laffer curve and growth effect of low taxes increase.
And what would you see as the Taxpayers Alliance's greatest success to date?
Well, our greatest success has been exposing the abuse of parliamentary MPs' expenses. The people were horrified when the politicians were using their money to furnish their homes with unbelievable gadgets and gizmos, and to use our money for a lifestyle that few people actually achieve, but all of us want to aspire to, and to actually bring the politicians into the public debate, and also informing the public as to how the politicians are spending their money, not just on services and politics as usual, but actually taking the people's money and lining their own pockets with it. And I think it brought a new arena into political debate. The people now know that politicians get lavish expenses, and that they're more in tune with the workings of Westminster. And if anything, that has been a boon to the campaign.
But you're not picking on every MP, are you? I'm sure there are MPs who are accountable and parsimonious.
Oh yeah, there were great MPs. One MP, Philip Hollowbone, doesn't employ a researcher. He does all of his work himself. I mean, there are MPs who have valiantly fought for accountability and fought for taxpayer value for money, and we support them wholeheartedly, regardless of party, because like government should live within its means, the politicians should as well.